Hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca Martin, founder of Cinema Femme. If you've been watching our events, you're probably familiar with who I am, but I am just so excited. This is the second tribute event we've had during our April showcase. And I get to speak with one of my favorite filmmakers, Kris Rey. I'm just so excited to talk to her about her work and her road to filmmaking. So yeah, I'm really excited. And as a film lover, it only made sense for Cinema Femme to partner with Letterboxd for this event. This is so Letterboxd is a community website and film lover community website, and you can learn more about them at letterboxd.com. So let's get started. Kris, you could come up now.
Hi.
Hi, Kris. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Oh my God, this is like a dream. I've been a fan for a while. So I guess, I just wanted to start kind of talking about your journey to filmmaking, like what brought you to being a filmmaker.
I guess long road. I went to I went to a high school that had like a TV program in Tennessee called Germantown High School.
Oh, nice.
And, it was quite it was cool because there was like a lot of equipment, and there was certainly an emphasis on production, but it was like also very sexist. And
okay.
And the girls were really kind of regulated to being, doing teleprompter or being like a producer. And it was pretty intense, that sexism in Tennessee, that I didn't really, I didn't totally register at the time. But I because of that course, I went to Southern Illinois University for film school. I thought I wanted to make documentaries. And while I was there, I did a lot of stuff, and I met my then boyfriend, now ex-husband, Joe Swanberg.
Yeah.
And we worked a little bit together in college, and then after college we moved to Chicago together, and we started making films together then. And then first feature we ever made got into South by Southwest in 2005, called Kissing on the Mouth. And that kind of opened up the world of like independent filmmaking in a way that was just like key. And then Joe and I sort of went our separate ways a bit with filmmaking, and I started to make my own work, and I made some of my early stuff. My first two films were improvised, and I made it with just a few small friends. Sorry, not a few small friends, just like a small group of friends.
Was this the Costa Rica one?
Yeah. It was great, but I was ready to come home.
Yes, yeah. I love that.
I love that one too. And that premiered at South by Southwest. Janet Pearson programmed it.
Oh, nice.
First year programming. And yeah, it did pretty well. Didn't get distributed. Didn't make any money, but also didn't, I just paid for it on my credit card. It didn't cost any money. And then I started sort of writing scripts, and that is when things sort of shifted for me.
Yeah.
And I was able to start doing stuff that was a little more thought out, honestly, and a little, have sort of bigger budget level.
Yeah, that's great. And I just, it was great watching your films like back to back. Some of them I hadn't seen before. Empire Builder, I hadn't seen that one, and that one blew me away. And I have some questions about that one later. But something I think is amazing about your films is that I can watch story about a woman who's pregnant and having children, and I still feel like, and I've never been pregnant or had children, but I feel like this connection anyways. Like I feel like a lot of your films have to do with women like finding themselves, like finding like, you know, just kind of like a coming of age film, but at different places in their lives. And I just want to talk about that aspect, like, you know, finding, based on your circumstances, finding your independence and finding your self-worth through the circumstances you're in, which I think all women can relate to. So can you talk about bringing these type of, you know, like, I guess, coming of age or self-discovery stories to the screen?
It's like totally not an intentional theme. Like I definitely never like sat down and said like, man, I'm gonna make like a bunch of movies in a row about like discovering yourself. But all of them are personal to me. You know, all of them are definitely based in moments of my own life where I've gone through my own period of sort of transition or self-discovery. And I'm like a pretty sort of like introspective person. And I'm like always sort of trying to like, I don't know, trying to sort of make inroads with myself. And it just kind of keeps happening. In fact, like the work I'm writing now, like similar theme, and I just can't stop.
I think that's great. Yeah. I mean, just like, you know, I mean, from a personal story, I feel like that idea that you're never finished is like such a true thing, you know, like, we're discussing you, but just a little side story about me. I had a bucket list of going to Sundance like in 2016. I wasn't press or anything. I was like, I'm just a film lover. And it just seems like that's the Mecca, you know? And I went there and I was just kind of like reborn within myself, like just meeting all these film lovers, like my people. And it's just that aspect that there's this ellipsis still in my life. Like, and that's something I see a lot in your films. So yeah, that's not a question. That's just an observation. But the next question I wanted to ask is, I think you work with some amazing actresses for your films. So, you know, Kate Shield for Empire Builder, Gillian, do I say Gillian or Jillian?
You're right, it's Gillian.
Gillian, okay, cool. Gillian Jacobs for your latest I Used to Go Here, and then Colby Smulders for Unexpected. I feel like you just brought the best out of these actors for these roles, like that. They were just like made to play these characters. Can you talk about your casting process with your female protagonists and how it was working with all these actors?
Yeah. Well, they're all like amazing. They're all really good. So that's like the thing I knew first, was that each one of those women is like really talented. And everything they do. And then for me, the casting process is really, I'm meeting with them. I'm just like sending the script out to a bunch of people, and then seeing who it clicks with. And then I will go, you know, haven't done this in a while, but go out to lunch with them or go out to dinner with them or go out for a drink and just talk about the project and talk about the script and talk about how they relate to it or how they don't, and talk about why I wrote it. And really what I'm looking for is a connection, not just between them and the material, but also between them and me. And what I am looking for most is the sense that this actor is just like a relatable human, because I'm looking typically for naturalistic performances. So I'm usually wanting them to be as close to how they would normally be in real life as possible on screen. And that's not like always, certainly that's not the case for like every part and every film, but that does typically tend to be the case for my films and for the leads of my films. And definitely was the case with Gillian. Like we just really had a great meeting, and like knowing her work, I knew she could do it. And I knew that it like felt like her. And then usually what I do after I feel like that connection with an actor is I'll go back and read through the script with them in mind, and see if it fits. And it's often just like an instinct thing or something, or just like, man, I really want to make them like, I usually leave a meeting like that feeling like, well, we're going to be best friends. And with all of those actors, they're just like, yeah, they're great. They're really good at it. And also they're just so fun to hang out with, and like cool people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's great.
it's like, and all of those roles are like in every frame of the film, really. It's like their film. So we really become like partners, and are talking about like, does this scene make sense for her? Like, would she say this? Like, what would she say instead? And what would, and like, it's just as much theirs as it is mine in the end, you know?
Yeah, I love that. I all the female filmmakers I've spoken to, I just love hearing about the collaborative process with their actors, and how, you know, you get as much input as you give them, and and then you just come out with something so great like your film. So it's just magic. So I wanted to talk about your short, Baby Mary. It's just so, I mean, it's unique, and I know it was kind of an influence for Unexpected, but what brought you to this film? Because it's kind of it's a gem, you know, and I just want to know like what brought you to that short film?
I used to work on the west side of Chicago, and I had really close relationships with a lot of my students, most of which are like low income Black students from, you know, living in North Lawndale in Chicago. And I was really young. I was only like 25, 26 when I had that job. And the students I was teaching some of them were like 18 years old. So there really wasn't that much of like an age difference between us. And I just like really made that job my life, and would, you know, I would drive kids home after school and pick them up. I would like call them to wake them up in the morning. We would like go, you know, I took a girl shopping for like a prom dress. And
oh, wow.
I just had really close relationships with those students. And because of that, I would be invited to their homes and just be in neighborhoods that were like this. And I just had this kind of idea for a story of sort of this like, this feeling of seeing someone in like a less than ideal situation, like wanting to kind of adopt them and take them home, and how you can't really do that. And and telling that story through the eyes of a little girl. I just, once I kind of had that little narrative in my mind for years before I wrote it down. And then I made that film. It actually really wasn't meant to be paired with Unexpected, but it ended up sort of helping me get Unexpected made. But yeah, we made it in North Lawndale on the west side, and used all people that lived in that neighborhood, all non-professional actors. And it was a really like beautiful shoot. And I am really proud of that movie.
Yeah, that's great. And was that girl, was she in like the party scene at the end in Unexpected? Am I
The little girl?
or the girl that was in Baby Mary, was she in Unexpected?
Yeah, the little girl in Baby Mary plays the niece.
Oh, right. Okay.
Of Jasmine and Unexpected. She's the girl that was like eating cheese puffs.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Kaya Dixon. Yeah, she's just great.
Yeah, that's great. So yeah, the next question. So I did a piece on this, so I think you're aware because it's when that Gina Davis Institute of Gender and Media event that you were a part of the panel. So I wrote a piece about what you said at that event because I just thought it was right on and something that I really thought our readers would be interested in. And you talked about how with Unexpected, I mean, I literally wrote out your quote here, but I don't know if I'm going to read it all. But the research you did, you know, to find like pregnancy and having birth on screen, and you know, Rosemary's Baby, Juno, Knocked Out. You were just naming all these films that were from the male perspective, and which, you know, women, come on, that's like. So, anyways, I wanted to hear your thoughts again about that for this discussion about, you know, pregnancy and the female gaze and you know, having birth on screen. Like, can you talk about that?
Yeah, at the time, I think what you're talking about during that panel was at the time when I was in pre-production for Unexpected, I wanted to watch as many like movies that like about pregnancy as possible. And I found that there were no movies from the female perspective. They were all about an expectant father, sort of like, oh, my wife is going crazy. Like, what do I do? You know, or I'm so nervous to become a dad. Like, and, or I'm too immature to become a dad. Yeah. Like Knocked Up is like a, you know, great example. And this is again, kind of like, you know, before we started recording on this, you and I were talking about like how as a young woman, I didn't realize how little representation I had in film, and even more so how little representation I had in filmmakers. And that is simply just like a product of, at the time, there weren't that many women making films. And so, yeah, the reason why all of these movies that I was trying to look at like were from the male point of view is because those are the people that were making movies. And it doesn't mean that men shouldn't be allowed to make movies about becoming an expectant father. But obviously we need, it's like ridiculous that half the population is female, and that we didn't have any films about a woman experiencing pregnancy and childbirth, you know, that I could find. Since then, that movie came out in 2015. Like since then, I feel like we have a lot more, and there's a lot more. There is a much bigger drive to create space for women to make work, and I think that there are a lot more women that are making work from their perspective, and even since then, which really was not that long ago.
Yeah. So true. So this was something I had told you before we went on record. I'm interested, you know, I want to discuss with you your relationships with other female filmmakers, and possibly their influences and your influences on their work. And specifically, I thought about Lynn Shelton because I knew that you guys had a relationship. So I don't know if you want to talk about just relationship with Lynn, or just working, you know, knowing female filmmakers, sharing work and all that.
Yeah. It's so special. And I do still think that there's a bonding element that between other female directors where you're like, hell yeah, you made it through. We both made it to this point. Like, and there is something special about that link, that I have a lot of close relationships with male directors, but there is something sort of holy about the relationship. Well, I mean, here's the other thing about directing in particularly, is that it's very isolating. You don't often work with any other directors, so you have your singular experience, and it's often not shared. You know, it's a singular role. You're the only person on set that does that. There's a lot of pressure that comes from that, and you don't often get to watch anyone else do it. So it's really great to have relationships with other filmmakers, especially female filmmakers, to talk about experiences and anxieties and like the nitty gritty of just like, how much did you get paid for this? Like, how much should I try and negotiate? Like, how did they let you do your own poster? Like, how did that work out for you? And yeah, that it's not only like helpful in those aspects, but it's also very inspiring. And it does feel like a sisterhood there. And my relationship with Lynn was primarily a personal relationship. And we talked about our lives and relationships and things like that mostly. But it was so cool. Lynn, who was about, 10 years older than me, a little more, maybe, 12 years older than me, was, we were definitely equals in our friendship, but it was so cool to have her as like a mentor and professionally. And I was like, man, I want your career. It was just like, had such a fucking great television directing career. And then she was able to take time to like make her own work. And of course she wanted that work to be successful, but it wasn't her primary way of making an income. So she was able to like have a lot of freedom, creative freedom with that. And she was just like nailing it always. And it was really great to be able to, send her my script. She watched a cut of I Used to Go Here and gave me feedback. And I miss her. I think about when I have professional quandaries, I often, when I have personal quandaries too, but often with professional quandaries, I'm like, damn, I wish I could ask Lynn. She was the nicest, friendliest badass you'll ever meet.
Yeah, I mean, I did an interview with Megan Griffiths recently, and she was talking about her, and I was just like, she just seems awesome. I mean, I just know her from her work, but just as like a person, you know. So
yeah, everybody loved Lynn.
Yeah, so moving on from that, I feel like I should leave that, but my next question, I guess it kind of connects to what we're talking about with female filmmakers. I want to hear about what's next with you, but I also want to comment on Cinema Toast, which is coming to Showtime the 20th, is that what you said? Yeah, which is next week. That's Tuesday. Yeah, right. So I was fortunate to be able to watch this series. I feel, I don't know if I can explain it or what it is exactly, but it's kind of mystery science theater, but it's like a step up because you're like making your own story out of it. And then, so anyways, I'm just saying, watch it. But something I noticed was that half of the episodes were directed by women. Which was really cool. I really liked seeing that, like Mel Eslin, and then there's Numa Perrier. Her episode's really good too.
You've seen more than I have.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just, I'm a fan of the series. So but I also wanted to hear, is there anything else that you can share that's coming up for you that you're working on?
I just directed a couple of episodes of a show called Work in Progress, which is also on Showtime. I directed a couple of episodes of the second season. So I'm not sure when that'll be out, but I'm editing those now, and I love that experience. I love that show, and I'm really excited about that. And then I'm just in the sort of early stages of writing some other stuff.
Okay. Yeah. That's great. And then a question that I like to ask the filmmakers I interview, which I feel like I always get the best answers out of. What is something that you hope people see in your work?
I mean, I really just hope they relate. And I do try to make all of my characters sort of like, no one's really bad, you know? Everyone's just sort of like complicated, and maybe some people are more selfish than they ought to be, but for the most part, everybody is sort of doing their best. It's not, again, not something I sort of intentionally do, but I tend to go that way. I kind of like that aspect of my work, I think.
Yeah, no, that's great. And so something I see that I always love is kind of the ends of your film. Like there's no final solution. It's always like an ellipsis. And I just it's always that sense of hope. Like you don't know what's going to happen to this character. Like I wrote this down. Kate, yeah, and I used to go here. She was just saying, "Oh, this book could be better," but not in like a sarcastic way, but like in a way that she's just like, "I can do better," you know. And it's exciting because So that's just an observation I had. But I want to thank you, Kris. This has been amazing. There were some questions I didn't get to ask you, but we'll have to do some kind of follow-up interview. But this has been great. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, well, have a good rest of your day, and thank you.
All right, see you later.
Bye, Kris.